Taylor Swift's Eras Tour has become the highest grossing tour of all time, and we've been given a 6-episode docuseries on Disney Plus to find out all the reasons why. Is it worth watching, or did it leave some questions unanswered? Let's discuss. Hello everyone, my name is Jay and welcome to my review of Taylor Swift's Eras Tour documentary, The End of an Era. Over 6 episodes, viewers get to go behind the scenes of the infamous Eras Tour and find out everything about it. Goes without saying that if you're watching the series, you're probably a fan of Taylor Swift and maybe even been to the Eras Tour yourself, but in case you're neither of those, let me give you a quick breakdown of what the tour actually was. In the words of Taylor Swift herself, the Eras Tour spanned a total of 18 years of music, with each show being split up into different sections that represented a given album or era. Although the setlist did change a little bit as the shows went on, by the end of the tour we had 10 of Taylor Swift's 12 albums be featured on the show, omitting only her 2006 debut album and the yet-to-be-released The Life of a Showgirl. In each chapter, Swift would perform songs from that album, often choosing to give more songs to albums that she'd made. Lover, Folklore, Evermore, Midnights and the Tortured Poets Department were given some more songs compared to earlier albums that she'd already toured, such as Fearless, Speak Now, Red, 1989 and Reputation. One important note about The End of an Era is that it doesn't capture the Eras Tour as a whole. Instead, primary filming began near the tour's end, which meant that although the Eras Tour began way back in March of 2023, most of the coverage we see, and there are exceptions to be fair, but most of the coverage we see occurs in the last 4 months of the tour, which occurred in late 2024. Personally, I was expecting a much more chronological approach to the documentary where we'd follow along the journey, seeing everything that happened as it did, but the choice to focus on those last few months means that some of the key moments in the tour were sadly omitted, and I think that's a real shame because there was a lot of big moments throughout that I would have loved to have seen. In particular, I thought we were going to get answers to the early days of the Eras Tour and its initial conception. The trailer for the series actually showed a range of post-its on a wall that had every single Taylor Swift song that had ever been written, and I thought that meant, okay, we're going to see how she whittled down the set list, how she chose what would make it, and how she chose what didn't. I thought we may have gotten answers as to why my favourite album, which is Speak Now, only got one song for the majority of the tour's run, and why her debut album was completely omitted from having its own section in the tour. Additionally, key moments such as the announcement of her re-recordings, Speak Now Taylor's version, 1989 Taylor's version, which were done on stage at the Eras Tour, are totally absent from this documentary. That's a real shame because I really would have liked to have seen the planning process and how she put all that together. Okay, so we've gone over what the documentary doesn't focus on. What does it show us? And honestly, quite a lot. For example, the very first episode goes into the foiled terrorist plot that resulted in the cancelled Vienna shows, as well as the horrific Southport attacks that happened here in the UK. These were topics that fans weren't sure if the documentary was going to address, but their inclusion effectively captured the constant pressure that Swift has to deal with. She was understandably affected by these tragedies, but her unwavering commitment to the show must go on is solidified in this documentary. Additionally, we find out that one of Swift's backing vocalists was diagnosed with breast cancer whilst the tour was going on, only for her to leave, get treatment and return to the stage before the tour ended. To me, that just shows that although we see a lot of joy happening on the stage and fans that are having a great time, there's so much going on behind the scenes that we were just previously unaware of. Another welcome feature is that we got to see what Taylor Swift got up to in her time off between shows. Spoiler, it's almost always more work. For example, we got to see what happened when she had to completely revamp the setlist in order to incorporate her new album, The Tortured Poets Department. This resulted in the team having to completely relearn everything they've done, with changing orders, new songs coming in, songs coming out, and brand new choreography. Additionally, we got to see snippets of Taylor Swift recording The Tortured Poets Department between shows, and at the time the yet-to-be-released Life of a Showgirl, which she also recorded by flying off to Sweden and back between shows. It's clear from this that The End of an Era is not just about giving context as to what we saw on the stage, but instead giving context as to what was happening behind the scenes. The tour lasted nearly 2 years, and a lot can happen in that time. Another thing I did appreciate is the range of perspectives that we got to hear from. We do of course hear from Swift herself, but we also hear from so many different members of the team. Swift has always been shown to seriously value her co-performers, and this documentary perpetuates that by showcasing the individual lives of the band, the backing singers, and the dancers, detailing their contributions to make the production as successful as it was. Swift is the star, but everyone's got a part to play, and this documentary makes no secret in detailing exactly what that is. We also get to hear from Taylor Swift's friends and family, the most notable of which I think is her mother, Andrea Swift. She's clearly a core member of Taylor's team, but Her inclusion also gives us some insight into Swift's childhood, and I think that fits flawlessly into the content of the documentary. A massive portion of the series focuses on the different musical guests that would occasionally join Taylor on stage. In case you didn't know, whilst the rest of the Eras Tour followed a set structure, each night would have a unique acoustic section, where Taylor Swift would perform a song on guitar, then move over to her piano. However, by the time the documentary crew was filming, she was mashing up her songs and fusing them together. In case you're interested, by the way, my surprise songs were Would've Could've Should've and I Know Places, along with the cut setlist song Tis the Damn Season and Daylight, so I got very lucky. It's in this acoustic section though that Taylor Swift would often surprise audiences by bringing in musical guests, many of whom she had previously collaborated with. Now, I thought this would be the focus of one particular episode, but these are actually sprinkled throughout the series. Ed Sheeran appears in the first, Florence and the Machine in the second, Sabrina Carpenter in the fourth, and Gracie Abrams in the fifth. Again though, because these episodes focus on the final legs of the tour, many guest artists who appeared way back at the beginning of the tour, and even in the middle, sadly are not featured, which include the Haim sisters, Hayley Williams, Phoebe Bridgers, Maren Morris, and a couple of others too. Because the series focused so much on these musical guests, I did feel that the series didn't really reflect my personal experience of the Eras Tour, and that's likely to be the same for the majority of other viewers too, since musical guests in the Eras Tour weren't exactly too common. Nevertheless, I did enjoy getting to see all of the guest performers, especially Florence and the Machine, since her performance wasn't in the acoustic section at all. It was actually built in by getting a temporary setlist slot, which meant it had to be fully choreographed in such a short amount of time, so that was pretty cool to see how it all came together so fast. Also, previously only the fans who were actually attending these shows got to see these guest performances, so it's nice to know that given it's now in the documentary, we can share that experience too. Going back briefly to the acoustic section though, it was really nice to see Swift experimenting with different songs to mash up together, and it makes clear how much planning went into each of the performances. The songs were never just decided in the moment, but instead, Taylor Swift put ample care, time and planning into what she thought would work well together. Unfortunately, we didn't get an answer as to why such a tiny portion of her song catalogue was never played. Some of the omissions make sense, such as Forever Winter or Soon You'll Get Better, because they're just really personal to her, but some of the Fearless Vault tracks never got played. What's up with that? I would be lying if I said that there wasn't a lot of content that I wish the documentary would have shown, but that doesn't mean I'm ungrateful for what we actually got. I think The End of an Era does its job well, and it really does show fans what went on behind the scenes of the Eras Tour, and even gives answers to questions that fans didn't even know they needed answered in the first place. If you're not a fan of Taylor Swift, then honestly I'm surprised you're watching this video, but I'm glad you are, and hopefully I can convince you to check out the docuseries as well. Fan or not, I think that the legacy of the Eras Tour and the cultural impact that Taylor Swift is still having today is undeniable, and I do think there's a lot of educational value in actually watching the series to find out everything that went on. Also, and I promise this isn't an advertisement for Disney, you can check out the full Eras Tour, the final show, which was put onto Disney Plus alongside the first two episodes of this docuseries. I think watching the docuseries as a whole works best when you've seen an Eras Tour show, because it really puts into perspective and gives some context everything that the documentary is choosing to unpack. What did you think though? Was the documentary what you expected? Please let me know by leaving a comment down below, subscribe and hit the bell so you're notified when I post a new video. That's all for now though, and I will see you next time. Bye!